Hello everyone. Alright, so today I'll be taking us through the advanced part of this very course. Yes, but before that I would recommend that you review our previous videos on this very webinar. I've been able to put together videos explaining the basis of this very software, or the basis of this very training. Yes, so it's important that you review them and then have at your fingertips how to use some of these tools on the menu bar, and how to take off efficiently using each of the very tools that we have on the menu bar. So just go through that, and then before you dive into the advanced part of this very course. But if you've been joining us in the course of this very training, this is a good time for you to actually get yourself more advanced on the use of the software and be able to do things that are more tangible than those things that I've explained in the time past. So without any further ado, let me show us what I mean by the advanced part of this very course. So when I click on any of these tools, it can be any of them. For example, I click on the linear tool, and then we have our dialog property bar. Once you hover around each of these buttons, you see that from there you can access any other properties that are embedded in them. And if I click on this advanced, of course that is what we are going into today. If I click on the advanced, you can see that we have very many parameters that have actually been working for us on our form. And we have here on the menu bar, we have so many tools. We have the add property, we have the insert property, we have the edit property, and so many other ones. We have the mathematical functions, we have the round up and round down, we have the copy, and we have the paste. We have our navigation button, the two navigation buttons that you can actually use to make changes to your parameters when you have them here on this very dialog. And then we have these two arrows that are in opposite directions. This is our refresh icon. We have the show event, we have the form layout, and we have our event. Then we have several columns. Yes, we have this column that have our groupings. We have our formula column, we have our input column, we have our adjust, we have our result, and input unit column. If I click on this add property, what it helps me do is to be able to add another property that I want in the course of my measurement. For example, maybe I'll be looking for a way to have my thickness. You can actually see from our previous measurement that we don't have anything that is called thickness. It's mostly depth. So in this case, I want to type in thickness, and once I type in thickness, I select the group, and these groupings I have on this left hand side of my window is what I am selecting from here, where I want to drop it on. You can drop it on your takeoff data, you can drop it on your estimating, and whichever one you choose to. But for me, I want to drop it on my estimating. But you should also be careful in dropping each of these parameters in the groups, because it will determine how you make changes and how you can use your formula. Alright, so I want to drop it on my estimating group, and once I am okay with that selection, I click OK. The truth is that you might not see it here, but that is why we have the refresh icon. In the course of this training, I'll be explaining all of these things. I may not be able to explain each of them one after the other for now, but in the course of the training I'll explain. So if you click on this refresh icon, you can see that I now have my thickness under my estimating group, and I can make changes just like every other one. I can make changes to, this very thickness. And if I want to be seeing this thickness on my form, I can check this checkbox. I can tick this checkbox, and when I click on my form, you can now see that I have my name and I have my thickness. So I can always type in my thickness if I want to take measurement for anything that requires that kind of parameter. All right, so that is how to do that. Again, let's go back to our dialog, advanced dialog properties, and then have a look at other things. Okay, I want to show us, let me just go back a bit. I want to save the changes. You can see that what I clicked then was my linear tool, and anything that concerns linear measurement, for example, if I click on this linear tool and have this name, for example, I have my wall plate, I click OK. Any takeoff or any measurement I am actually doing here will be in linear meter, just like we've seen in our previous videos. All right, but this time I want to use this same linear tool for my volumetric measurement. So when I click on it, one of those items can be my trench excavation, like we've always seen. So when I type in trench excavation, this time I'm not clicking OK. I'll click on the advanced, and when I come to the advanced, you know that for us to take off for anything that is in cubic meter, we need 3 parameters, and those parameters are length first, then we'll talk about our depth, and then we'll talk about our width. All right, so how do we go about using this linear tool to do that? Okay, so you can see we have the estimating group. We also have here, if you slide down, you can see, or you can double click on each of these. If you don't need any of this group, you can double click on it, and then it will collapse the parameters that are under it. So you can see on our takeoff data, we have width, we have depth. All right, so in our trench excavation, what we need is our length, which you can see that we have our takeoff on our estimating. Our takeoff already is our length, is representing our length, but here also we'll be needing our width and our depth of that excavation. So these 2 parameters are here already, and if I check them, if I check the width and then I check the depth rather, and then click OK or click on this form, yes, you can see that I now have my trench excavation, and I can measure it inputting my width and inputting my depth. All right, but this time it might not work because there are certain things that we need to do. Of course, you know that for you to be able to call this, or for you to be able to measure in cubic meters, you have to have a formula that will work in that very area. So I get back to that's my very dialog property, and what I can do now is link my parameters to be able to have the desired result. So let me do that. What I can do here is I already have my takeoff, so I click on this place and I will use my multiplication sign, that is this very sign, this very symbol here, and once I click on it, I have it on the very column, the same row on that my quantity row. And what I can do here is to drag my width, click on it, I drag it up and drop it. Then I click my refresh to be able to see it clearly. You can see that I already have my width here, and then I click back again on my multiplication sign, and then drag up again. I collapse this, and then I drag my depth this time to it, and then refresh. So I now have my three parameters linked. Then I will go ahead and change the unit. Of course, when you have your length, which is our takeoff, your width and your depth, then what you have here this time is cubic meter, and then I go ahead and then lock that formula. So once I lock the formula, another thing I want to do is that I want to always, let me collapse this. Maybe I want the width of my excavation to be permanent here, so I can type in the width of the excavation. For example, I can type in 675. In this case, I'm using strip foundation. Then the depth, for example, I can type in 200. That is if I am making, or if my units are in millimeter, but you can see that in meter. So let me quickly change that to be in meter also. That is 0.675. And then this one is going to be 1.2. All right, 1.20. Okay, so if I click on the form, you can see that I already have my width to be 675 already, and I have my depth to be 1.2. So each time I come back to this place, I can always use these very parameters this way. But what if this is not really what I want, and I would always like to input it myself? Of course, I won't continue measuring strip foundation. So what if it is maybe rough foundation that will have lesser value in terms of the width? So what can I do? So I click back on the advanced, and then I take off, I remove these let me delete them. So I delete this, and then I'll leave it empty so that I can always come back to my form, and then you now see that what we have is our width, and then we'll have our depth. All right, another thing is that you can see that this width have been separated from the depth, and it might be difficult for me to always find where I can always see this thing. So I can also make adjustment to the form layout, and then be able to have everything streamlined the way I want them. So once I click on advanced, then you can see the form layout. I click on this form layout, and what I want this time is after my name, immediately I want to have my width, and it's already there. So I want to also see that my units appear by the side of what I'm measuring. I can always select the units of my measurement. So I click and then check this. Then again is my depth, which my fill type, my hatch have, my color, my fill, and my hatch is, on top. So I would like to bring it to be closer to that width so that it doesn't confuse me. So I click on it, and then what I can do is to move it up, and then I keep clicking. Okay, let me drop it under the width, and I also want to be seeing the unit, so I can always see. This is just a kind of preview of what you'll be seeing on your form layout. So before I start seeing my color, I start seeing my texture, I want to always see my name, the name of what I'm measuring, just like you see, not highlighted, trench excavation. Then immediately I want to see my width and my depth. So once I am okay with this, I click OK. Then you can see that on my form, I already have my trench excavation, I have my width now. I can always key in the value of my width and then key in the value of my depth. Another thing I want to touch also is that there's a way, since you already know that there are different kinds of foundation that you can measure, or that you can do a trench excavation for. What you can do also is to have options for these very data, or the values that you key in on this. So I go back to my advanced again. On this my width, I right click, you go to property, and then I have this edit property, and this time what I want to have is my street foundation first. So my street foundation is and my value, remember my unit is in meter, so I always type everything to be in meter. So my street foundation is 0.675, and then I enter. Then I will have my rod foundation, which can be 225. I can also have a foundation that have, maybe for example, I'm using the wall thickness of 150, so I can always have, sorry, I think 225, that is going to be 0.225. Then for my wall thickness 150, I can always have 0.150. Alright, so I can always have the option of choosing from these, and once I click OK, then you cannot see that from here I can always slide down and choose, although I will get back to my form so that you understand this better what I have done here. And my unit is still meter, of course. Then I do the same for my depth. If you have a right click, select properties, and have this dialog, and have this yes, edit property dialog, and then I can type in, for example, my unit is in meter, 0.90, doesn't matter, type in 1.20, enter 1.35 maybe, and lastly I want to always see 1.5 as my depth. Once I hit OK and then come back to my form, so what I can do here is, anytime I want to measure from my trench excavation and is street foundation, I can slide and select my 0.675, and then the depth of what I want to measure this time is 1.5, or the depth of my trench is 1.5, and I can select that from this very, drop down arrow. The colors, you can always select your most preferred color. Let me select red, and once you are okay with this, you can hit OK, and from this place, once you click and keep on clicking, whatever measurement that you take this time is going to be in cubic meter. Let's go ahead and try that. So let me measure for my external trench excavation. So once I click endpoint, I'm taking off right now for my external trench excavation. To avoid over measurement, and double click at this end, and then right click to stop. Okay, so you might be asking why the width of this measured item of work is this wide. It's because I selected the width of 675, and 675 is actually more than the thickness of this wall. In trench excavation, you excavate and both the width of the block and excavate your spread. So we have spread of 225 by this side, and then the spread of 225 by the other side. So if you add them together, then you have 675. So that is why we have this width. But if it is rod foundation, what you're going to have here is just width that is going to align with the wall that you have here, which is 225. So that is why we have the width to be this large. Okay, so here I have my volume to be 61. You can see from here that my volume is 61.3 cubic meter. All right, so we've been able to use this linear tool to measure for our cubic item of work. And also, once you select this very measured item of work, once you select it by the right hand side of your window, you can see that we have all the details of that measurement displayed. So that is how to use your linear tool, or how to use the advanced part of these records to be able to make changes to all of these things. So take for example, if I change the property of this very measured item of work. Like for example, I click on here or come to this place, and then I right click. You can see, go to my properties, and you can see that my width is 675, 0.675. Let me this time select 0.225. You can see that it's already changed and the width can align with what I have here. So if I click OK, you can see that the width is aligned to the type of thickness of wall that I have externally. All right. So okay, let me quickly use the area tool to also explain how you can use that tool, just to give us a better understanding how you can use the area tool for our cubic measurement. And once I select the area tool, I can type in the name of the item of work I want to measure. In this case, I want to measure my concrete slab. Right, and then I go to advanced. But you remember that for you to be able to take off for your concrete slab or any volumetric kind of measurement, you will need 3 parameters. And in this case, or in the case of this my concrete slab, I will need my length, my breadth, and my thickness, or maybe the depth, or what I can call the depth. Yes. So once I have my takeoff, but you can see that once you have your area selected, your area tool selected, that means you can cover for your length and your breadth. So you just need one parameter this time, that is going to be your thickness or your depth. So let me go ahead and collapse this and then go to my takeoff data. I already have my depth here, so I can go ahead and check that, or just for better understanding, I can always edit this very property. I can always come here and then edit this property and have it in a clearer term that what I'm measuring is my thickness. Then I can change the name from this edit property to thickness. So once I hit OK and then refresh, collapse this, you can see that I have now my thickness. And once I tick my, or once I check my, once I tick my checkbox and come back to form, what I have is my concrete slab and my thickness. So I'll have my length and my breadth embedded on this concrete slab, and then my thickness. So everything I'm going to measure this time is going to be in cubic meter, and that is going to represent my concrete. That is going to represent my concrete in volume. All right. So, but let me also go back to advanced and then type in the thickness of the concrete, just like I did before. I can type in the thickness, maybe to be 150, but I have here, okay, let me use millimeter this time. Yes, let me use millimeter. So the unit I want to use this time is millimeter, so I can use 150. And once I go back to my form, this is what my form is going to look like. I can always have my thickness to be 150 by default, but for me, I don't prefer that. I don't want that. I will always have to impute my, because there will be changes in the course of measuring a different drawing. It might not be 150, it might be 200. So what if in that case I have it by default this way? What will I do then? So it's good you always leave your form empty, and impute your value in the time of your measurement. So I go back to my form, or go back to my property dialog, my advanced property dialog, and remove this 150. The only thing I can do is just to right click and edit the properties, and then I have this. I can always type in 150. Remember, my unit is in millimeter this time, and then I have 200. So I think this is the most common thickness that we've always had, in terms of our slab. So once I hit OK, I can always slide and then select any of these two. So, but I have not yet linked this, or maybe have not created a formula to enable this work as a cubic item. So what I can do is to drag and drop here, this very, yeah, this very thickness, and once I refresh, you see I have my thickness, but there is no mathematical function to be able to help me know that yes, this is a formula that can actually work. So what I do is I click in between them and then type in my mathematical function, that is my multiplication this time. Okay, so once I take off, which is my area already, and then my thickness, have my thickness, what I'm going to have is my cubic measurement, you know, my volume, or my concrete in volume. So let me change the unit to be in cubic meter, and then I lock my formula. Okay, so that is that, and you can go ahead, open your form, and then you can see that we already have our thickness, and we can always select. But the problem here, I have one problem here. You can see that we don't have our unit by the side, so that I can always, you know, make changes to that too if I don't want to be using millimeter. So I go back to my advanced, and then my form layout, and in this case I am going to have my name, my thickness, but this time I want to, you know, show my unit. So I check this very box, and once I tick this very checkbox, you can see that by default I have my millimeter on this very form. So I hit OK, and then come back to my form, and this time I can always make changes to that, and then make changes to this also. So if I'm good with this, and then yes, I can now select. This time I want to use 150 as the thickness of my slab, and once I hit OK, I can now go ahead and take off for my, or measure for my concrete slab. So everything I'm going to measure this time is going to be in cubic meters. All right, but I think that is going to be wrong if we do that, because my unit is in millimeter. But let me go ahead and make changes, and also use that opportunity to show us that you can also make changes to the very measured item of work even after the measurement. So I go ahead and click the endpoint. This is going to be the area of my slab. This is my upper floor slab. Okay, but I have since this is my upper floor, there's this slab area that I need to deduct. So let me also show us how to do that. Once you right click, you can see subtract from section P to P, and what I can do is to just click on this point of my staircase. You know, I do the same on this side. Okay, yes, I right click again, I subtract, and then I click to subtract this very void where I'm going to have my slab, where I'm going to have my staircase. So I have this deducted already, and then you can see when I zoom out, you can see that I have my concrete slab to be 29.9 cubic meter. Also from here you can have 29.9 cubic meter. But remember, I wanted to show you something. You can right click on this place and have your properties changed. So remember, what I have here is millimeter. So let me change this quickly to be in meters, since I have cubic meter, and then this one turns to be 0.15, and I think I'm okay with this. I click OK, and once I click on this place, you can see the detail of my measurement on this side, and you can see the value of what I've measured, the name and everything here. I think that explains everything that concerns volumetric measurement, or any kind of changes that you want to make when it comes to advanced part of this very course. and you can also try others. There's no limitation to what you can actually do using all of these tools on the menu bar. So try out very many of them and see if you can be able to achieve one of these things, achieve very good results. I'll be looking forward on the comment section to see that you've been able to, create your own formula and then make a measurement to it. So that is how to do that. Thank you.